Down.
We are live. Hi, everyone. I am Violette Ayala. I'm the founder of FemCity, and you're joining me today for Business for Your Soul. It is our podcast that we actually live stream into our Facebook group. And I'm so excited for you guys to get to know my guest for today. She is the founder of Sugar Rocks. Her name is so beautiful. Like when I pronounce it, I hope I do it. I honor it. Salome Sallehy. And she is also gorgeous inside and out. And I'm so excited to learn about her founding story. Welcome so much to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Violet. I've been following FemCity and I love what you guys are doing. I love the community you've built. It's an honor to be here.
Oh, thank you so much. That means so much coming from you. I'm very grateful that you took the time today to inspire us, to motivate us during these times, especially. Share a little bit for those femmes that don't know about your brand and your business. Share a little bit about your founding story and how you got to create this beautiful brand, Sugar Rocks.
Yeah, for sure. Like most founding stories, it was kind of sudden. But it took a long time. And we were traveling. I needed some grooming. We were in Australia. And I went into the salon to get threading done. And the lady introduced me to sugaring. And this sort of followed me. We were doing this big family trip over 7 months, just taking a break from our super busy corporate lives to just kind of figure ourselves out as a family. And then the journey followed me in France, and sugaring has actually become a big trend there in just the last couple of years. It was early stages, so I learned a lot more about it. When we were in the south of France, I got to meet a lot of actually North African migrants who moved to the south of France because it's so close. And the tradition actually is still very much alive in countries like Morocco or Tunisia. So I learned about sugaring there. And as someone who is, I'm Iranian descent. So there's a lot of grooming that needs to happen. There's just some ethnicities that need more hair maintenance than others.
I'm there with you.
So, I learned about it there, and I was like, oh my God, this is life-changing. I have to bring this. Why is this not a thing? All those years, being a teenager, growing up, struggling with hair and body hair and maintenance and what we have as cultural norms versus nature. And it was always a constant battle. I can literally go on about every method of hair removal that I've tried, but because I have sensitive skin, it was always a battle. So when I discovered sugaring, I'm like, why is this not a thing? I don't understand. So that's sort of how it started. But all businesses, you have to vet the idea, you have to validate your theory, you're passionate about it, but others might not be. So we sort of spun around a bunch of different pivots until we decided that we're going to manufacture it here. And that's sort of the beginning of it.
I love that. I love that you shared it so honestly, because I think sometimes women, when they come into our organization, they feel that they see women like you and like myself, and that we had this idea 1 minute, next minute we had, $500 million, and then we started it. You know what I mean? I love that. Or that we went to Wharton Business School, or that we worked at Goldman Sachs. And so the truth is that really great brands and businesses are every day created by a passion and a connection to what made your life better, and you want to bring that to others. And by the way, I am Cuban, and I remember the first time, I must have been 7th grade. I had a full-on mustache, full-on. And I tried bleaching it with that product. Well, I'm not going to mention the product, but anyway, it bleached it. And then I looked ridiculous. It was all this blonde, fur. And so when you were saying all this, that was definitely a challenge that I struggled with also. It may sound silly to some of you that have never had that, but it can really decrease your confidence, especially when you're younger. So sugaring is a hair removal product then, correct?
Yeah, so it's a sugar-based wax, and you don't need any equipment. You literally apply it with your hands, like you scoop it out, like pull it on and pull it off.
Wow.
And it takes the hair, fuzz, and dead skin with it. But I just want to touch on your story for a second with the mustache, because we've all been there. I didn't realize until we launched the brand and started selling the products how many other stories there are that are like, you know, I felt like I was traumatized by hair.
Right.
But I'm seeing that like, oh my God, there's so many other things that are much like some of our customers have conditions like PCOS, which gives you like thicker facial hair and managing that, and sensitive skin. One of our customers is allergic to razors. I didn't even know that was a thing.
Right.
So I think, you know, if something feels like it's something that you're passionate about and feels like, oh my God, I really need this, chances are that there's other people who share in that need in a way that you don't even know yet.
Yeah, I love that. So when we were chatting in the green room prior to recording, we were talking a little bit about FemCity and how we both started. And I started FemCity was the same thing. Like I started because I needed it in my life and I was craving this community. And it wasn't until I started moving forward that I realized how many other people. So the lesson there when it comes to business is that sometimes you are passionate about something, whether it's a service or product, and you have a connection because it's helped you in your life. You have no idea sometimes until you move forward with that idea, you have no idea how many more thousands and thousands, millions of people have also felt the same way. So I love that you brought that up, because I think there are so many women that are, you know, nervous about stepping forward and creating a business because they're like, oh, it's, you know, like maybe it's just like networking, right? Or, oh, it's just hair removal. But there are so many people that may actually benefit from you stepping forward in your greatness. So Carrie Lynn Miller says you both are so inspiring. Thank you so much for sharing that, Carrie Lynn. So I wanted to ask you, you know, you're very successful right now. You've done such a great job with creating this brand. You're helping people that obviously have some more serious conditions where this actually will probably add, I can only imagine, the confidence level, the changes and the impact that you've had in their life. Did you ever think that you would be where you are today? And my intention in asking that is sometimes we start businesses and we're so caught into that moment that we can't really foresee what the future is like. When you look back now, I mean, did you ever envision when you were walking through south of, France and like discovering that it would become this big thing?
Oh my gosh, no. I will never forget very early on, right before we launched. I don't know if you know Gary Vaynerchuk. Everyone knows Gary V. He had posted a graph on LinkedIn, which was the path to success. And it was not linear. It was like this crazy squiggly line.
Talking about like all this insanity.
Yeah. It's total chaos. So you don't really, I mean, I didn't see ending up here. And I definitely didn't envision like being so married to this concept and idea. I thought, okay, like this sounds really cool and like, let's try it. And then you go through all the trials and tribulations and then the building of it. And those are all tests. Yeah. And then today, one thing I didn't envision is being as proud as I am about what I'm doing. And the stories that we hear from customers are really fueling that. So
I love that. I love it. What about the moments that things didn't go as planned? Like, were there things that you did that you were like, well, that didn't go over so well? I mean, hey, for FemCity, we started a newspaper. It did not go over well. Like, I was so passionate about starting this newspaper featuring only local business women, and it did not do so well after all that money. So I know you most likely have a story that's similar of a time that things didn't go as planned. And what was that like? And how did you kind of pivot and get back on track?
Oh my gosh. So I'm going to deviate a little bit, because the story that I shared in the article, the written interview, is definitely, there's so many moments, like we can't boil it down to one. So that's a different story. But I actually want to talk a little bit about our launch story, which was not planned. So we were already like 6 months delayed in launch. And one of the reasons why, because are custom glass jars. Here, I'll show you one.
Okay.
Like custom glass was made in China, and China got hit with COVID. We had a glass manufacturer that got hit with COVID. So that caused like a huge delay. And then finally we overcome all of this like supply chain disaster. And we're like, okay, we're launching. So we did our soft launch on International Women's Day, which if you look back at the clock was approximately 4 days before lockdown in California. So we had like built this facility, our manufacturing facility. We built the website, the brand, all of these things were ready to go. And like within 4 days of our soft launch, we had to shut it down. That was not planned for. And it was devastating. It was devastating, like dealing with like, you know, employees that were gonna start because we were ramping up. Employees who had started, we had to scale their time back. I mean, it was devastating on so many levels. But, you know, like I said before, my hardest moments were my greatest teachers. And now in hindsight, just like months later, it was also the silver lining in all of that is that it opened up a whole new market that we weren't even targeting. So sugar wax is for at-home use. And there's a segment of the market that they just go to salons. They go for their sugaring, they go for waxing, they go once a month, every month. Now those people can't go. And now we're giving them a viable option to like be able to like still have that power of like grooming themselves at home. So whenever something goes crazy, crazy wrong, like a global pandemic,
Right. Something small.
there's always an opportunity. It just sometimes takes a little bit of time to find it.
Yeah, I love that I had goosebumps with you sharing that story because I think I know so many women in our community when the pandemic hit. I mean, we have one woman who shared, she's a travel agent. She lost, you know, all her business for this year. And it took some time for her to emotionally recover, right? It's a really big blow. And she got back into it and she had a Zoom call. She wasn't even familiar with Zoom. She had no idea how to get on. And from that, she ended up booking a bunch of business for 2021. So I think that you will have inspired so many people with sharing that because if you're in the throes of it right now, if you're feeling a little bit knocked down, you haven't really kind of pivoted correctly or successfully, you know, take a break and look around and see like where are those avenues of opportunity that you can pivot. And I bet you there's more growth there than you ever thought possible, much like exactly like your story. What was the biggest lesson you've learned throughout this journey?
Oh gosh, we touched on it a little bit earlier. Success is not linear. I think that was one of the biggest things because like, you know, I'm such a planner. I had all these ideas, all these charts, all these plans, all these graphs, like, you know, everything's laid out and then one thing after another. And just that's life though. I think we were kind of accustomed to this steady growth that we experienced as a society for like such a long time that we expected predictability to be the norm. And that's not. I think what's the chaos that's happening right now is probably more normal for like life and human existence than the steady, everything's predictable. So definitely, success is not linear. You have to be open. You have to, you know, just embrace some of the changes that come your way and look for the silver lining. The other thing I learned is that, you know, things take longer sometimes than you expect, especially when you're depending on like suppliers and others outside of yourself. So that kind of, I'm a little bit more of the controlling type. So I'm like, no, we're not going to contract manufacture. We're going to build the facility and we're going to do it right here in California. So those are just decisions that you have to make. So I think know yourself and be real with yourself. And, you know, you talk about the hard times, like it was hard. I mean, now I'm looking back and it's all roses and silver linings. But when you're going through it, I don't even know how many times I cried.
Yeah.
Like sometimes multiple times a day.
Well, sometimes you're so in it that you cannot even see the tomorrow. I mean, you're just so in it. And I find that when you're in those moments, it's not just one component, it's like 20. It's like a series of like another thing that goes, you know, the way that you didn't expect. And I love that you share that you like to control things. I was like that too. I like to have everything in control. And now it's gotten to the point where it can go right over and I'm like, like it's like you develop this tremendous amount of grit that things that would have knocked you out for a week, you know, just kind of like you don't even miss a step. So you definitely become more seasoned in grit as the years go by, but we're going to say as the days go by, since it's 2020, as the days go by.
Of course. But I think also to that point, there's a little bit of like, it's grit, but it's also like you, for example, have really like brought your vision to life. You know, it's not a baby anymore. FemCity is a community. It's a thriving community of amazing women. So now you can like let things kind of slide and you're like, because the vision is there and you know, your community sees the vision. It's as you're building that grit, you're also building your vision. So I think there's a little bit of like, there's a little curve that you have to kind of get past. Yeah. And once you get over that, then you're gold. Like your vision is out there, your team, your employees, your like all the people that are rooting for you see your vision. And then you can be a little bit more relaxed about things, which is where I'm hoping to be in 2021.
Yes. That's great. Those are great tips and great lessons that you have shared with those that are watching or listening. And as we wrap up, final advice that you have for someone who is, let's say she has been let go from her full-time job. She perhaps has an idea in her head. She doesn't know if it's a good one. She doesn't know whether to move forward or not. What advice would you give her when it comes to launching this idea?
So many different ways you can go. But I think the most important thing is to just do it. I think depending on what the idea is, a lot of experts will tell you, you know, try to validate the idea, test the idea, like do a mini launch, do like a you know, viable prototype or whatever it is. It depends on if that's the, you know, what you're doing and if that's the right route for you. For us, it didn't make sense for us to like just do a little thing and see if it's viable, because we were so driven by, you know, the environmental factor and really innovating in the space. So like having glass componentry, making our packaging minimal, not adding in a bunch of random paper brochures that you don't need. So we printed labels right onto the glass bottles. That was an important consideration for us. Every single supplier told us just do plastic. And almost like 90% of the plastic in cosmetics is not even recyclable. I didn't know that. So it's terrifying. So I think you have to go for it. And then you have to ask yourself, like, what is the worst case scenario? And I find that often when you play out the worst case scenario in your mind, it's not that bad. It's not like you're going to die from trying. You're going to maybe fail. And then you get back up and then you try it differently. But the important thing is to do it, because you're never going to have the answers. And you're never going to know if it was a good idea or if it would have changed someone's life or if it would have had an impact or if that would have been your legacy if you don't do it. So I think the most important thing is to do it, but have a good vision of like, you know, like, this is how I want to do it. This is how I see this vision coming to life. And don't let people talk you out of it. Just don't.
Yeah, I love that. And there's so much there that I want to add exclamation points. And the truth is that if you don't do it, I think that you'll also have that nagging and that regret all the time. And I find that when we move forward in it, we don't have 100% of the answers. We don't know 100% of the way it's going to to kind of like process. But the reality is that you can edit, you can shift. I mean, things are not going to be perfect. I mean, from the beginning, you think things out, and then a week later, it's a little bit different, and you have to. So I think there's also that that confirmation that it's not going to be perfect at the beginning, and it's okay. It's okay. You have more love coming through. Love your sugars. Oh, that's so great. So how can we learn more about you? How can we follow your journey? I'm sure that some of the femmes that are watching or listening would like to, I, of course, would like to start utilizing that for my, now that I'm almost 50, by the way, it's not only here, it's like now these random, like, you know,
chin,
like these little I call them whiskers. These are like a little hard course around the chin area, but how can we stay connected with you and follow you?
Well, first of all, I want to say you are stunning at 50. I want to be you when I grow up.
Thank you. Thank you.
Secondly, we right now are selling directly from our website to consumers. So we're sugarsugarwax.com. We're posting tutorials and how-tos on Facebook and Instagram. So I think on Instagram we're sugar_wax or sugar__wax, and our Facebook page is there. Really, we have a YouTube channel as well where we're posting videos. Sugaring is a new thing, and it's a little bit of a technique that you have to kind of practice and perfect, and we're putting out content constantly to make it as easy as possible. The content is not like a weekend course like the estheticians have, where it's like $700. It's all free, right. But we really want to be there for our community. So I'm constantly like roaming all the channels. We just launched on Pinterest as well, because, you know, pinners love to do things at home themselves, and I got so much inspiration there. So happy to be a part of that community as well. So we're just kind of on social, and yeah, just check us out. You can message us if you have any questions through the website. And we're here. We're here for you. Join our Sugar Tribe. Ask me questions. I have loved connecting with other women entrepreneurs in the beauty business, and I love that we can help each other out. So if I can be of help, like, don't hesitate to reach out.
I love that. You have such great energy, and I am so happy for your success. I wish you, oh my gosh, an abundance of prosperity and more growth, all coming your way. It was really lovely getting to know you and hearing your story. And again, I think that you've inspired many, many of the women that are listening and watching. And you can always watch all of these over at FemCity.com and on our podcast. And thank you so much. And we'll see you guys next week.
Thanks, Violet. It was such a pleasure. Thanks for tuning in, guys.